Welcome, everyone. My name is Paul, and I'm a data analyst and trainer with Purple Beard. And we have an interesting topic today. And what's also something special about today's session is we're also going to have a demo session, right? So we're going to have a practical session. So I can't wait to see what we are going to learn today. And for some of us, we might be familiar with a bit of data analysis, or you're a data professional, and for some, maybe this is just your first time. You're all welcome. And if you have any question, please do not hesitate to put them in the chats. I'll be willing to answer them at the end of the presentation. So let's dive right in. Today's topic is data-driven education, Power BI's role in shaping students' outcome. So basically, in summary, what we are going to be looking at today is how Power BI can help achieve educational goals. So Power BI is specifically tailored to the education industry. So data-driven approaches in education involve using data systematically to inform decisions about teaching, learning strategies, and educational policies. So we have different stakeholders in the education sector, not just the student. This is not just about students. You also have policymakers, you have administrators and other relevant stakeholders in the business. So how do you use data to improve strategies? How do you use data to achieve objectives? So your data-driven approach will be going into what it means to be data-driven. It's not enough to just collect data. That's one mistake I've seen in some industries. They have lots of data and they say, yes, we are data-driven. It's not enough for you to collect data, for you to have lots of information and you call yourself a data-driven organization. So in the next few slides, we're actually going to see what it means to be data-driven in education. So briefly, I just want to talk about the analytical life cycle. This is not the complete, this is just a condensed version, right? So this is basically what it means to become data-driven. First, you have objectives. Before you set out, you have objectives. In education, what do I want to achieve with my students? From a policy angle, how do we make sure we don't see lots of dropouts in schools or out of school sessions? How do we improve students' pass rates against a benchmark, or how do you raise the benchmark? Different stakeholders have different objectives and expectations. So before you set out to collect data, you have to know what these are, right? Then you now move into data collection. So relevant data is gathered from different sources. There are so many touch points in education, like data touch points. Let's start from the classroom. We collect data on students' performance. I'm going to be showing examples of different places where we can get educational data from. So from the classroom, you have data on students' performance, you have data on students' attendance, you also have data on students' engagement, where you are checking to see the number of times they've submitted their classwork, they've interacted with their classwork, done their projects, how they're faring in class. You are measuring all those things, and not just on the side of the students, on the side of the teachers as well. You're also measuring feedback. And thankfully for advancements in analytics, you can now measure feedback quantitatively. So when you have somebody giving a review about a particular course or about a particular teacher or about any education professional, you can actually quantitatively measure it thanks to natural language processing. Yes. So after the data is collected from different sources, integration, you also have to clean this data. That's another topic for another day. But the data has to be clean in order for you to proceed with analysis. After cleaning the data, you begin your analysis. And basically, you're trying to answer the objectives, the questions you already have. And you're also trying to see what other insights can you derive from your analysis. Then after that, you have to visualize these particular insights that you found. You have to visualize it. It's one of the best ways of summarizing your findings. You wouldn't have to start, how will I put it? You wouldn't have to be ambiguous. You have to be very clear. And that's where visualization tools comes in. So previously, in the past, you have people who have done their findings but don't know how to communicate this to stakeholders very easily. But thankfully, we have lots of advancements in business intelligence, business reporting. You have visualization tools that can easily summarize your insights, your findings from the data you've gathered and cleaned. And actionable insights. So it's not just enough for you to discover something new in the data or the information that you've actually collected. There has to be a clear path to action. Okay, since we've discovered that students have been failing this course since this particular tutor was employed, how then do we turn this around? So there has to be insight, and this has to be backed by your data. So it's not just enough for you to just say, oh, this is what we found from the data. This is possibly why this is happening. There has to be like a step, it has to go a step further, backed by the data you've already provided. There has to be like action. Okay, this is what we propose. This is what we think might turn this around based on your findings. And you might be wondering, where do you get this kind of data from? For some people in education that are in this meeting today, I'm sure you must be familiar with some of the sources which I'm going to share with you. So sources of educational data, where can we get the information we actually need? One, students' performance. Students' performance in class, their tests, their classwork, you are measuring everything. Then students' attendance also is a great source. You're seeing how many times students show up at class. So this is not just, this is for like all level of education, right? Including further education. You're looking at how many times students are turning up at class. Are they coming on time? Because you want to be able to, is a great data point for you to be able to see whether attendance also like impacts their performance at the end of the day. Normally, like you're supposed to say, okay, if you attend classes like very well, your performance, there should be like a kind of positive correlation. So it might be something that you might want to test. And it might say otherwise, it might have no significance. But let's move to the next data points. Students' engagements. How many times are they engaging in class? Are they contributing? Are they also doing their classworks and the likes? Then teacher evaluation. We are looking at the teachers from the teaching point of view, like what the teacher is actually doing. Everything the teacher is doing is measurable. You're measuring the tutor's ability to impart knowledge to the students, to the learners. You're also looking at their punctuality, their attendance. You're looking at so many touch points. And you're also like looking at the reviews from the students. You have systems set up to collect all this kind of data. That's one interesting thing. So for evaluation, you might be giving them like a form to fill at the end of the day, let's say using Microsoft Form, Google Form, or any customized service. Then teachers' professional development records. So you're looking at the teachers working in your establishment, like, are they progressing? Because it's not just enough for you to, because knowledge is progressive. So it's not just enough for you to say, okay, I know this subject and this is where I'm going to teach for such a number of years. Things are changing rapidly, and are these teachers also moving along with change? Are they also progressing in their respective careers and their professional development? You can track these things also. So this is a great data point. Online learning analytics for people who do virtual learning. There are lots of metrics available. If you use Google Classrooms, if you use Microsoft Teams, there are lots of data touch points that you can use to measure progress. You can use to measure learning and special education and individualized plans. Like you have students with special needs. You're also like tracking their performance. You're tracking whether learning is customized to their objectives, to what they really need. So these are like some common data sources some things you can measure. There are others too that are not covered here, but these are great examples. So what is the importance of data-driven approach in education? So I'm going to run through these points. First, informed decision-making. So previously in class or in education, people are being treated as a whole. You don't have this detailed level of granularity focused on students. So because you might be dealing with a large class, you're having like a class of like 50 people, how then do you track each and every one of them? Previously, when you go into the classroom, you just have to like use an average measurement or use an average form of learning to, you don't customize to each student's needs. But now with a data-driven approach, when you have a data-driven approach implemented in your organization, you can track each and every individual, track whether they are progressing in learning, track whether they are meeting their objectives, track whether they are engaging properly in class. For every detailed data touch point, every student can be measured. And with this measurement, you can use it to introduce like learning style to fit the students' needs. Then resource allocation. Resources are always like generally limited. So you might want to focus the right amount of resources where it is needed. Let's say you have learners who have special needs. You know you have to dedicate some resources to them. And how do you space out those resources so that it's not exhausted? So with a data-driven approach, this is very possible. And I've seen this implemented. I think I'll give examples as we move further. Then continuous improvements. You're monitoring progress in real time. You don't wait until the end of the learning session. You don't wait until the end of the semester. You don't wait until the end of the academic year. You can track student progress and see whether they are making progress. And if they are not, there can be like a timely intervention. You can step in and try to address the problem. This is the benefits. This is what being data-driven can do. You can have a dashboard reporting each and every student's progress, and anyone that isn't meeting like the benchmark or goes below the baseline, you can address it almost immediately. Then evaluating teaching method based on the feedback you've gotten from the students or feedback you've gotten from policymakers, you can optimize teaching strategies and make adjustments. So in the case of teachers, they are able to see what their learners think about their style of teaching, think about what they're actually teaching, and think about their behavior in general. And this is a great form of insights, because if I've once worked with an organization that focused on collecting feedback from students in like higher education in universities for their lecturers. And most times the lecturer has just been the one dishing out content to the learners. They don't have enough, they don't have places where they can view feedback, whether there needs to be like room for improvement, whether there's a better way to assist the students. So what we are trying to do was to set up a platform that can measure the feedback from the students and also provide them to the lecturer to see how they can improve. With this, students get like better experience in class. Students can collaborate easier in class when they know that their feedback is being considered. So there's so much benefits to feedback. There's so much benefits to feedback for teachers' teaching methods, for how will I put it? Yes, for teachers' teaching methods. So, okay, yes, another thing is evidence-based practices. So, because of the information you have, it presents evidence enough. You can, okay, for example, I was doing a course recently, and generally when students log on to the course, they can see a chart showing performance. So every week we have to do like tests. They can see the average performance of the class. So at the beginning of the course, the average was about 80 something, 70 something. It went as high as 90. But like at the middle of the course, it started dropping. We started seeing that curve. Like everyone had the opportunity to see it. It was accessible to all the students. And what does that mean? It means that something has happened, something I will not say something bad, but it calls for concern. So I'm sure the lecturers saw it, and the lecturers started adjusting their teaching methods and try to find out why students are like struggling, why are the test results dropping. So this is based on evidence. And everyone can see it. The students, the teachers, the administrators too can also see. So evidence is really important in the education system. Also, students' engagements. Students can see how they are performing in real time. They can see their reports, not just the teacher seeing it from their own point of view. Students can also see how they've been performing in class, their engagement. They can also have access to that particular data. This helps them collaborate easier with the teachers. And you can also do predictive analytics based on the data you have. You can also predict that, okay, this student might likely get a distinction. This student is likely to drop out of the class. This student is likely to not complete the assignments based on historical data. So all these are like the importance of the data-driven approach in education, where you are measuring everything, you're analyzing, and you're also taking action, which is very important because I think we focus more on collecting data, analyzing. How about the action taking? So this is where Power BI comes in. And what is Power BI? So we are going to be doing I'm going to be showing you how Power BI can be used to implement some of these things. So Power BI is a business intelligence tool developed by Microsoft. Right now, there are so many changes. I think the platform is now called Microsoft Fabric. But Power BI itself, it empowers like users to analyze data, visualize data, and also like create interactive reports. So one thing with Power BI that I really enjoyed learning as an analyst was how easy it was. So there are like advantages, which I'll also go into. There are like advantages, how easy it was for a new user to just pick up Power BI and just begin to like also on users end, when you present the Power BI reports to the users, you can also see how easy it is to just look at what they are interested in, customize the reports to like get what they want to see. The visuals are easy to use. You don't have to, the learning curve is not, to learn Power BI is very easy. That's what I can say. For someone who has used different business intelligence tools, Power BI's UI and friendliness is very, very helpful. So I'll be showing you how all this can be implemented in a few minutes. So this is some. Now we have the data in Power BI. We have the data catalog, management gateway, Power BI service, Power BI, Power Query. All these are part of the Power BI platform. And the Power BI architecture here, you can see 50 plus apps. As at the last time I checked, is over 250 connectors. Power BI can connect to a wide range of sources. So you could have your data in a Google Sheet, you could have it in SQL, an SQL database, you could have it in Snowflake, you could have it in different platforms. Power BI can bring all those data together into one place, right? So that's one benefit of using Power BI. So why Power BI, like I mentioned, is friendly, it's very easy to use, easy for beginners, easy to consume as reports. When you're developing reports for policymakers, you're developing reports for administrators, even for users, end users, like students. If the students wants to see like a Power BI report or a Power BI dashboard of their performance, they can consume it very easy. So integration, like I mentioned, it has like over 250 data sources you can connect to. Visualization and insight is very easy. It has this drag and drop function where you can just drag the data and you can just easily create visuals and insights. It has some predictive capabilities also. Then self-service analytics, like is quite easy for you to customize to see what you want to see. And collaboration and sharing. So Power BI allows you to share data with your colleagues, share data with end users, publish data on the web so that everyone can see, can be accessed by everybody. So I'm going to be showing you like a classic case of how Power BI is being implemented in a classroom. So we'll be going into Power BI now. And this is what the Power BI interface looks like. For some of us that must have seen Excel something, you see that these ribbons are like familiar with what you have in most Microsoft softwares. So the data we are going to use is from a classroom. So we have this data that belongs to like an educational service. So they have students, they also track students' performance in their tests or in their courses. They also have different tutors that are also taking the courses, and they also have a feedback system. So what they have here now is just, it records the details of the students, records their performance, their courses. So this is just data I simulated in Google Sheets. Then I also wanted to show another example that the data can be somewhere else. So here, the data is hosted on my computer. So here is the feedback. So the student had an opportunity to review all their tutors and they gave feedback for the courses. So we are going to attempt to build a simple report in Power BI and show you how accessible it is and how it is useful to monitor students' performance and also to evaluate the teachers also. So first thing first, we have to get the data. Like I mentioned, multiple data sources. One thing with Power BI, most places where your data is hosted, Power BI can actually pull in the data, even from Google Sheets, even from Excel workbook. Look, let me show you more. See, we have Access database, SQL database, different kind of database. You have cloud services. You have other online services. Like I mentioned, over 250 data sources that you can connect to. So what I attempted to do was I decided to pull that data from the web because the Google Sheet is hosted live on the internet. So I had to connect the data from the web option here. I put in the link and made some modification, and Power BI pulled in the data directly from the Google Sheets. And one thing about Power BI is the ability to update data in real time. If I make changes to the Google Sheets and I just refresh the data, the latest data can come in. Now let me show you where you can model and transform the data. Yes, so this is Power Query, like I mentioned. So Power BI has Power BI service, which is the cloud platform, which is hosted online. And this is Power Query, where you can, is an ETL tool used to transform your data, used to extract, and used to load your data. So here we imported the data we needed. So all this data came from Google Sheets. If you check the source of the data, you can see the link to that particular Google Sheets. This is the link to the Google Sheets. So it's pulled the data from Google Sheets and brought it into Power Query. Then for the student feedback, if you check the source, this student feedback which resides in this Excel sheet on my laptop or my PC, you can see the source where it got the data from. It's telling you that the data was from my PC. So one thing with Power BI is that you can integrate data from so many different sources and bring them together. You can even get data from the web. You have public data you have access to, or you have data in the database, but it's the relevant data you need for your analysis. You can pull all this data in together and transform them and process them for your analysis. So I wouldn't go through all the, I think I've made a few modifications because of time. So once you have the data connected, you just have to apply them and it moves them all into Power BI. Then you can go and model your data. So your data you've pulled from different sources, how are they related? Like, how are they related? So I've just built a simple model to show how the data from the different sources are connected. So Power BI has here, you can model the data here. So I said, okay, the staff in the organization, how is it related to the student feedback? So I'm saying, okay, anywhere it sees the course ID in the staff table because the staff or the tutor is taking a particular course, yes. So anywhere it sees the course ID in this table, it should reference it here. So that means each staff is taking a particular course here. So same thing here. I think yes, so joined on the course ID. So this is just relationship. So your tables, they can be from like 10 different sources. So there has to be like a way for them to relate. If you are dealing with like relational data, you have to explain how the data actually relates. So with this data I showed you on Google Sheets, I want to be able to build a simple report that can show the students' performance in their tests, also show the tutor's performance also. So it will also measure the review of the tutors. And first, to build a simple report, I just have to, so I just created boxes like a template or a layout of the report I want to build. Like I mentioned, drag and drop. Power BI is so easy to use. I want to insert a text box here to have the title of my reports and name this, let's say, Higher Ed Reports. So let me start the analysis. So the data, this is where the data is, the data from the different sources that I have modeled, that I've connected together. So how then what are the metrics? What are the questions I want to answer? So previously I have questions written down that I planned to answer. Like first, I want to be able to see an interesting thing that I forgot to show was Power BI has the capability to also do sentiment analysis. So based on the student's review, look at here, each student gave a review for a particular tutor. I took that into Power Query and did a sentiment analysis. You don't have to use Python or you don't have to use other programming tools. You can easily do that in Power BI. So with this, I was able to measure, look at the student feedback table where I had the feedback and look at the sentiments. So the sentiment is just trying to like quantify the review from 0 to 1, 0 being very negative and 1 being very positive. So we have the reviews here, and you can, once you click on text analytics, with text analytics, you can generates a sentiment score for each of those review. Here we can see this saying the teacher's dedication to making the class enjoyable is evident, although sometimes the pace feels too quick. It ranks it as 0.9. So let me look at this. This is 0.19, which is like negative. It's saying the teacher's impatience. The teacher's impatience demeanor makes it hard to ask questions. Look at this that scored 0.5. It says displays patience and motivating dedication, but some students desire more varied teaching methods. So what this text analytics feature did was it went through all these comments and classified them into positive, negative, or neutral. So you can perform further classification and say, okay, if this is between 0 and let's say 3, say negative. If it is between 4 and 6, like you can do the further categorization. But because we don't have enough time, we'll proceed. So I've already gotten sentiments. And so I may want to see a report that shows sentiment for teachers and some of the words, the most common words that students say about like a particular tutor. So look at this visualization called word cloud. Power BI has lots of visualization options. You don't need to code them from scratch. It's easy to use just with your drag and drop. So here we are interested in showing the student's feedback. When I click on feedback, it prepares a word cloud. So a word cloud is used to like show how frequent the words are being used in the review. So let's say here I want to say minimum number of words is like 5. Remove stop words, make a few modifications, rotate it. So these are like some common words. Their sizes show like the number of usage, right? So let me have this here. So let me have a histogram showing the sentiments. So I want to see for all the tutors, I want to see how the sentiments vary, whether we have lots of positive than negative or we have lots of negative than positive. So we use sentiment score. Hold on. So okay, here, I already have it here, sentiment score. So I can bring it here. Then I might also want to show average score for each student. For each class, for each of the course, the average score. So I can show number of students that are in that particular school or taking a particular course. just drag and drop. I don't need to write multiple codes. Though yes, there might be like options to like write a little bit of code to optimize this, but with your drag and drop here, we just want to know the total number of students. Here's the students table. Yes, we have here the student table, and we just want to count the number of students. So we want to count the number of students. So it tells us we have 30 students. So this is course. I might also want to just add a visual that shows their attendance, whether it's correlating with their score. So we want to find out whether there's a relationship between attendance and the scores they get or the grades they get. Like the more students, like the more they attend classes, do they pass very well? Because this data is simulated, you might not necessarily see the relationship you're expecting. So this is a scatter plot. And so let's say you want to implement things like a baseline, you want to be able to measure. So here we are taking the average score for all the courses. We want to be able to measure constant line, and I want to say the constant line is, let's say 60. Let me do the sentiments. Okay, yes, so this is what I wanted to see earlier. Then I can implement filters to be able to see, to be able to break down and see. Remember what I mentioned about individualized learning, like for each student, for each tutor, you want to be able to fit them individually to find out. So here I might be able to show and say, okay, I want to see by course name, and I want to make this a drop down. So with this, I can say, okay, for this particular course, I want to be able to see I want to see how many people attended the course. I want to see the sentiment. So you can see for course A, you have lots of positive sentiments. So let's see for something like course E. For course E, you can see lots of negative sentiments than positive. You can see that a lot of students did not even meet, let's say, the targets, like 60%. Let's say the average score for that course did not even meet the target you set, which is 60%. And here they were saying the students, the teacher lacks something. Like you could actually find granular details, like little details, like go down to the individual details for each particular, whether it's a student or a course, anything you want to see. And you can also do it at the student's level also. So you have a slicer like this. You are able to filter to anything you want to see. Let's do this. Let's put it here. You want to be able to see this by student's name. So here you can check each student's performance and see how they are doing in their respective courses. For these students, at least for like majority of the courses, attempted to pass the benchmark. But you can see for like course C, the student is struggling. So with this, you can tailor and say, okay, what is actually going on with this course for the students? Is there a way we can make the student better? You can provide solutions. You can also drill down if you have more information to find out why that particular course, most of the students are failing it. So you can see data at different levels. So with Power BI, it's quite easy. I don't have enough time to start customizing this because you have to arrange it. You have to make sure that your report looks good. Right. Then another thing again you can do with Power BI. Power BI, you can work on Power BI as a user. You can work on Power BI as an administrator. So as an administrator or as an analyst, let's say I've built the reports and I don't want, for each tutor, I want each tutor to be able to see only their own courses. Power BI also have that capability to assign roles. So here I can assign a role and say, okay, I want the person teaching course A to only see course A data. So go to modeling, manage roles, add a new role, course A. Here I've added a role called course A. So I can view as course A. So imagine a lecturer named Timothy or something, and I email him because he teaches course A. I can share the reports of his class with him here. So he's not going to see the data for other classes. He's just going to see only data for course A, what he's doing. So you can also assign roles. You can assign views of reports, of dashboards to different people in your organization. So these are some things that Power BI can do, can help you manage. So with this, you are also like dealing with like data privacy, confidentiality also is also taken into consideration. So this can be implemented using Power BI. So not everyone have access to the same view. You can restrict access or you can restrict like some properties of your reports or your dashboard to different particular users. So some students, if you want to share the reports with some students, they can't see data for any other students. They can only see data restricted to themselves alone. So that's the beauty of Power BI. Power BI like merge so many roles into one. So with this, when I'm done with the report, I can save it and publish it to the web. So that I'm going to show you Power BI service. We are rounding up now. Go to home. So file, publish to the web. So it's going to publish to Power BI online service. I can also make this report public for everyone to see. I can share it with people in my organization. I can restrict rules. I can do all those things to in Power BI service. Then I can also, one interesting thing before I forget is to, okay, we have it ready here. So once we click on this, open in Power BI, it takes you to the web and you can be able to see the reports on Power BI service, which is in the cloud. One thing you can do is this data can be refreshed. So as more students are giving their feedback, as more students are writing their tests or their exams, as more records or as more data keeps coming in from the data source, this can be updated with the latest data. All these particular things can be updated with the latest data. And how can you do that? You have to, so this is the report here. If I want to share it with a particular member of my organization, all I just need to do is to type it here. And that is the ease of collaboration in Power BI. I can share it with anybody in my organization. Then lastly, I just want to show you how that is possible to actually refresh this data. So you can set up what we call automatic refresh. So this data can be refreshed in like real time. Where is this? Yes, so this is the report I just published, right? So I can go to settings and say, I want to refresh this data. This is the option to refresh the data. So you can, let me, so I want to show you how possible it is to refresh the data. So this data can be refreshed as more data keeps coming into the data source. You can get the updated data. So you don't have to worry about like repeating your analysis over and over again. All you just have to do, you can just do it once and just keep maintaining the reports. And as more data comes into the data source, you can schedule. Look at now, it's now allowing me to schedule my refresh. I can say I want it daily, or I want it weekly. And I can add like multiple number of time if I want it to refresh like every 1 hour, every 30 minutes, even in real time, it's possible to do that. And also like in case it fails, you should send a notification to a particular person. So yes, this is possible in Power BI. So with this, you can have a report. With this, you can have a report that you can easily share with policy makers, you can share with administrators, you can even share with the students themselves. Power BI also has an app where they can see this. Look at here, you can customize this report for a mobile view. You can customize this report for a mobile view here. Mobile layouts. Yes, you can design this report and make it functional on mobile. So students can easily see data regarding to them. They can see their progress, they can see their performance in real time. In real time. And with this data updating, with this data being updated, with these insights you've created, you can be able to take action. So this is something that Power BI can help you achieve as someone running an education business, a policymaker in the education industry, even as an analyst wanting or someone wanting to learn Power BI. So this is not just for education alone. It's cuts across so many industries. Power BI can actually help you do this. Power BI is big on collaboration, is big on integration, and Power BI is quite easy to use, quite friendly to use. Like you can see a lot of the steps I just took here are like, I was just dragging and dropping, and I was able to like generate a report quickly. Yes, I still have to like make changes, edit this, make the colors presentable, do a lot of things, but you can set up your reports very easily. So I hope I've been able to like show you some of the benefits of using Power BI for education. So not just from a student perspective, from also a teaching perspective, an administration perspective, a policy making perspective. All you just have to do is you have different goals, and with different goals, you'll be able to like produce different results in Power BI, whether it's a report they want, whether it's a dashboard, whether it's a particular metric you want to see, everything can be created using Power BI. So I think this is a good place to like take questions. I'm sure there are lots of questions in the chat. But yes, thank you very much. Christian, are you there?
Yes, I am, Paul. Sorry about that. Okay, so first question that we have in the chat says, do you think Power BI is the best platform to create a story-based visualization?
Yes. Yes, Power BI. Because of time and because of computing power, I have like a couple of reports because what I do is I also tell stories using data. So I recently did one to show like how the currency of a country has been devalued and how it actually affects the common person on the streets. I write like relatable stories and I use data and I use Power BI to do this. So yes, from a storytelling perspective, to create a story and to tell a data story, Power BI is a very, very great tool. There are lots of new things like annotations, even play axes that you can play it and it shows you how the data is moving across time. Power BI has like custom visualization that can support storytelling. So yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I hope that answered the question. Another question says, for someone with no prior Power BI experience, do you recommend taking the Microsoft exam PL300, Microsoft Power BI Data Analyst, to compensate for their lack of experience and improve their eligibility for roles?
To be very honest, I would say sometimes when it's not impossible to take the exam and like succeed. It works, like you can do that. But I would say there are some things you don't even learn by just reading. There are some things you learn by doing, right? There are some things right now. Power BI has just released some new updates. And as someone who has used it before and somebody who is seeing the new updates now, I know, okay, these are the changes. I know some things that somebody who is just like reading might not know how to do. So I would say you might not necessarily take so much time. You can run like refresher courses. There are fast courses you can take in Power BI that can also assist you succeed very well in the examination. So, and your lack of experience, like I say, to deal with lack of experience, all you just have to do is learn the tool and put out so many projects. So once recruiters see that you actually can do this, not just on paper, not just you having this certificate alone, like you've done projects, yes, it gives you a shot at the roles you're applying for.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question says, am I right in saying that something like this could also serve as a weekly progress report for students and educators, then help administrators use the progress report data to plan ahead?
Yes, yes. So, like I mentioned, if I want to customize these reports for policyholders alone, this will be different from what I'm going to build. Like this particular report I've just showed will be something different. So yes, you can customize something weekly. All I just need to do is, if once I build it, I just use the refresh option to like refresh, let's say once every week. I know that, okay, I'm going to the presentation, they're going to see it tomorrow. So I set up the refresh to refresh once every week. So it updates the metrics. You can start creating custom metrics. You want to see, okay, what is the percentage of students who have gotten more than 50 in like 50% in a particular course. You can write a custom or create a custom calculation to do that custom metrics. So yes, Power BI can do so much more.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another one
Yes.
says, what do you think are the main differences between Power BI and other data viz tools such as Tableau or Looker or Data Studio, etc.?
So I would say I used Tableau once and I used Power BI now. One thing that Power BI has as an advantage is like the integration, working with like lots Power BI's connectors. I'm not sure if I've seen a BI tool that has lots of connectors like Power BI, but even Power BI has connectors to like Google products also, to like Google Query, Google Sheets, and the likes. That's one advantage. Then two, creating like custom metrics. When it comes to creating custom metrics, trust me, Power BI has an advantage over Tableau, right? So I can't really say for Looker or Data Studio, but if you look at there's this business intelligence chart by Gartner, they release it like oftentimes. Power BI is way ahead of most of other BI tools. So yes, it's profitable to learn Power BI, and the innovation in Power BI, resources to learning resources, the community. Power BI is one of the best tools available out there.
Okay, great. I think I have the final question for you, Paul, but I'm going to also ask you to go back to the slide deck.
Yes.
But this question is asking how much is the Power BI tool? How much does it cost? I believe is what it's asking for a subscription.
Yeah. So yeah. Power BI has like a free for individual users. The Power BI desktop is free. Now, when you are working, Power BI is affordable compared to other tools. Like an organization, I think it's $10 per user per month, compared to some tools that would require you to pay like 5,000 per year or per month, I think. So Power BI is that's one of the beauty of Power BI, is very, very affordable. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very easy to access. So you can access the free tool. You can like Power BI desktop. I don't have to pay for it. I just download it. So yes, it's easy to access.